At my birthday party, Mom revealed a hidden secret to my brother that changed everything forever. The moment everyone sang Happy Birthday, Emma Johnson felt a surge of anticipation dance through the air. This was supposed to be her day, cake, laughter, smiles, but instead it felt charged with an undercurrent of fate. She glanced at Linda, her mother, trying to decipher the mix of joy and apprehension on her face. Why couldn't moments like this ever be perfect? With a modest living room adorned in homemade decorations, the warmth of loved ones surrounded her, yet a vague unease nestled in her chest. What if today didn't go as planned? As her friends chatted and Dylan, her little brother, giggled over cake crumbs, Emma wrestled with her thoughts. Balancing high school and a part-time job at the diner felt like a Sisyphean task, pushing the boulder uphill just to roll it back down again. Money was always tight, and every hour spent serving pancakes weighed heavily alongside her responsibilities at home. Guilt gnawed at her, a constant ache that perhaps, if she worked a little harder, things would get better for them all. She wanted more than this. She wanted to dream beyond the diner's fluorescent lights. But how could she? When Linda tugged Dylan away into the corner, Emma's heart sank. Accompanying them was an unsettling silence that stretched on like the ticking of a clock. The joyous shouts faded into the background, leaving only the muted hum of her mother's soft voice. Why the secrecy? She rubbed her sweaty palms against her jeans, tension rolling through her like a wave. Was this birthday going to be different, or yet another reminder of their struggles? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Linda finally emerged from the shadows, her face a paler shade than normal. Emma's stomach twisted when she noticed the fire diminished in her mother's eyes, swallowed by a storm brewing just beneath the surface. With shaky breaths and a quavering voice, Linda gathered everyone around, and in that moment, the air thickened. As Linda spoke of an inheritance left by Emma's estranged father, the room transformed, reality shattering into specks of confusion and anger. How could she keep something so significant hidden? It felt like a betrayal, a twist of the knife in already tender wounds. Emma's heart raced. All the sacrifices she made felt dwarfed by the revelation of unclaimed wealth, hidden opportunities. It was as if her years of toil had become meaningless, snatched away by foggy shadows of her mother's silence. Crashing waves of doubt flooded her mind. Was she just a worker in a world full of possibilities? Why had she never been privy to this information? Each question tore at her, demanding attention, while the laughter and chatter around her morphed into distant echoes. She could feel the walls of her existence closing in, a tight squeeze, really, as she battled the raw bitterness tightening within her chest. What awaited her in this treacherous terrain of familial expectations and unearned legacies? At the precipice of unraveling, Emma clutched the edge of the birthday table, willing herself to breathe. What began as a simple day of celebration now branched into a tumultuous journey. Secrets festered like unresolved issues, and as she locked eyes with her mother, the desperate flicker of uncertainty solidified her fears. Would claiming this inheritance empower her, or would it threaten to tear her family apart? Doubt and determination collided in a violent storm, each competing for reign over her heart. The very essence of her identity balanced on a razor's edge, longing for clarity, yet shrouded in chaos, leaving her aching for answers she feared would come at a cost. Emma stood at the edge of the swirling emotions in the room, her mind simmering with questions about the inheritance and its implications. The din of laughter faded further into the background, and she felt as if she were encapsulated in her own bubble, with the weight of her mother's revelation sitting heavily on her shoulders. Dylan, blissfully unaware of the tension threading through the atmosphere, continued to bounce between guests. A pang of jealousy surged within Emma. How could he remain so untouched by the intricacies that seemed to envelop her? Regardless of her own insecurities, she had always committed herself to keeping things together for him, often casting her own desires aside. But would this revelation shift the very fabric of what she had worked so hard to construct? "How could you not tell me?" Emma finally blurted out, the words tumbling free before she could restrain them. The room hushed, eyes darting toward her and then back to Linda. Her heart thumped against her ribcage, a mixture of anger and hurt threatening to spill over. "I've sacrificed so much, and you didn't think I should know?" Linda's eyes glistened, holding back tears, but her expression remained resolute. "I thought I was protecting you, Emma. The world of money isn't as simple as it seems. Your father left more than just money. He left a path that could complicate everything we have." The words fell between them like an anchor. Protecting? Emma scoffed internally. Everything she had experienced, the fear of empty fridges and the stress of bills piling up, all because her mother had chosen to keep secrets. "Complicating it more than it already is?" Emma replied sharp, her voice trembling as she fought to keep her emotions traffic controlled. "Do you think I'm not capable of handling the truth? I've always been the one managing our lives." The atmosphere shifted, tension hanging like fog. Linda stepped closer. "You don't understand. Acknowledging this inheritance means confronting your father's legacy and what it represents. It opens a door to questions that have been buried for far too long." Amidst the confrontation swirled a realization. This was not merely about money. Emma could feel the unarticulated burdens they both carried, regrets and unresolved issues woven together. The echo of "your father" seeped into her consciousness, a source of resentment tangled in confusion. She heard stories from her mother, tales filled with warmth, but also threads of abandonment and loss. What did that mean for her? How could she pursue her own dreams with a shadow looming over her? Wasn't she the product of that very past? Settling into the triumph of personal understanding, Emma felt the faint embers of determination ignite within her. If what I'm meant to inherit carries weight, then I have to face it head on, not just to secure something for myself, but to uncover the truth behind his absence. The resolve breathed life into her, making all previous fears seem small. Embracing this inheritance could lead her into paths she never envisioned, but that meant finding clarity amid chaos. She needed the courage to uncover what this legacy truly entailed while standing firm enough to protect what she cherished. As her gaze returned to Linda, Emma noticed the flicker of hope behind her mother's blinking eyes. It was a silent invitation, an opportunity for both of them to explore what had been concealed for so long. But the quest wouldn't unfold without challenges. It became clear to Emma that the confrontation with her father's unresolved legacy also meant wrestling with her own doubts and ambitions. Engaging in this process would demand she strip away the illusory comforts and learn who she truly was, beyond the family defined by struggle. "Let's ask the questions that need to be asked," Emma stated softly, a quieter yet firm resolve punctuating her tone. The next few steps would not only determine her financial future, but reshape her understanding of family, identity, and her own ambitions. Emma's mind buzzed with thoughts as she caught the delighted laugh of Dylan nearby. She had to tread wisely. What uncharted territories lay before her as she resolved to embark on a journey toward answers? Preparing herself for unyielding truths, she wondered how would deciphering her past align with her future. The air throbbed as she sensed that what awaited was a deep dive into emotional and moral dilemmas far more complex than she had dared to imagine. Yet with each intention to take a step forward, she also sensed the stark possibility of family ties being further strained. Perhaps now that the hidden landscape of inheritance had been revealed, it required an approach that would challenge her very core. That's it, she thought, determination flooding her veins. No turning back now. As she breathed in the momentum of this new reality, the towering thoughts of what her father's legacy may represent loomed over her, promising revelations that could transform everything she believed. But little did she know that the storm of buried secrets was merely starting, and that revelations awaited her far beyond the door she had just chosen to open. Emma took a deep breath, steadying herself as she felt the gravity of the moment settle in her bones. Around her, the laughter and chatter resumed, a stark contrast to the brewing storm within her. This was not just a birthday party. It was a pivotal juncture in her life, one that could unravel the fabric of her existence or reshape it into something new. With every glance at her mother, a sense of urgency surged within her. Linda would need time to process their exchange, but that urgency mirrored Emma's own need to act. She could no longer allow the shadows of the past to dictate her present. The weight of her father's legacy wasn't merely tied to monetary gain. It dragged along with it the expectations and disappointments that had been laid bare. Dylan returned to her side, the innocent glee still painted across his face. Despite the gathering's festive atmosphere, Emma felt like they were standing on a precarious ledge. His laughter echoed in her ears, serving as a reminder of her dual responsibilities: to protect him with the truths she had just unearthed, and to face the legacies that threatened to divide them. The juxtaposition was jarring. How could she explain complicated emotional landscapes to someone so young? "Hey, did you see the clown? He was hilarious," Dylan exclaimed, his excitement palpable. Emma forced a smile, but inside her thoughts raced. "Yeah, buddy, he was something," she replied, her voice betraying none of the turmoil beneath. She needed to channel that unyielding resolve she had discovered moments earlier. "But you know what? I have something important to discuss with Mom, okay? Just hold tight for a minute." Dylan looked puzzled, but nodded, his attention quickly flickering back to the party. Emma stepped away from him, seeking refuge in the quieter corner of the room. It felt like the calm before a storm. She could almost hear the countdown in her head as she prepared to confront her mother again. Linda's gaze followed Emma, her expression searching and guarded. "Emma, I didn't mean to hurt you, but—" "Mom," Emma interrupted gently, "this isn't about blame. I need to understand why you thought it was best to hide this from me. What aren't you saying?" "Sometimes the truth is more complicated than it appears," Linda replied, her voice trembling. "Your father, he had burdens, and I thought I could shield you from the repercussions." Emma's pulse quickened. This was the moment she had been waiting for. "What kind of burdens, Mom? If I'm inheriting this legacy, then I deserve to know everything, good and bad. I want to prepare myself." Linda sighed heavily, and Emma recognized the fight bubbling beneath her mother's surface. Your father's business was more than just finances. It was a web of choices, mistakes, and unresolved debts. I didn't want to involve you in that chaos. Her heart raced. Debt? Choices? Could those choices affect her, not just financially, but in terms of who she was and who she wanted to become? What were those mistakes? How deep does this go? Emma pressed, feeling an unsettling mix of dread and determination take hold. Linda hesitated, eyes flickering with fear and sadness. "It might mean re-examining everything we've built. It alters how you view us and him." A storm of emotions churned inside Emma, each word spiraling her deeper into the chasm of questions she thought she was ready to confront. She was about to inherit not just money, but history, fleeting idealism represented by her father's decisions and the stark reality of potential regrets. She straightened her back, allowing an iron will to strengthen her resolve. "Then let's start peeling back the layers, together. I can't continue with a legacy built on half-truths. I need to know where it all began." Her mother's eyes, swirling with past sorrows, locked onto hers. The space surrounding them felt charged, vibrating with purpose and impending choice. Emma understood that this wasn't just about understanding her inheritance. It was a pivotal personal decision to face the shadows of her father's choices head-on and cultivate her own identity, unburdened by the obscured past. With each heartbeat, she acknowledged the frightening notion that inheriting might involve more than wealth. It required grappling with uncomfortable realities. As her mother nodded slowly, the tension shifted like a tide. Emma could feel the moment crystallizing. They were on the brink of revelation, embarking on a path fraught with potential heartbreak, yet demanding to be traveled. But even as Emma steeled herself for the truths ahead, a sense of trepidation tugged at her resolve. What if the realities were darker than she anticipated? What if delving deep meant unearthing resentments that would forever alter her relationship with her mother? The questions loomed like approaching clouds, an ominous sign of impending storms. Could she navigate these turbulent waters without capsizing the fragile vessel of their family? With each step towards the unknown, the weight of her impending journey loomed heavy, yet underneath it was a current of fierce hope. The next match awaited. How would she engage the untold dimensions of her father's legacy? And would the discoveries redefine the narrative of who she was meant to become? Emma steadied herself, absorbing the gravity of the moment they were about to enter. With the laughter of partygoers still ringing in the background, her world felt overwhelmingly insular. How could her mother have shielded her from the truth for so long? The idea of stepping into a legacy riddled with complications sent a shiver down her spine. "Mom," she began, keeping her voice level, "what do you mean by unresolved debts? Who do we owe? Are there people out there expecting something from us? Something from me?" Linda's gaze faltered, revealing a flicker of vulnerability. "Your father tried to manage everything. He always believed he could solve his problems alone, but—" Her voice trailed off, and the silence thickened, heavy with unfilled gaps of fear and uncertainty. "What? But what, Mom?" Emma pressed, urgency propelling her words. "These secrets can't stay buried any longer. It affects me, my life, and my future." Linda took a deep breath, as if the very act of breathing was an act of surrender to the storm. "Your father made agreements that weren't just financial. There are promises made in desperation, strings attached to people I can't even begin to explain. It could take down everything we know, or worse." "I never knew him at all, did I?" Emma whispered, trying to comprehend the disarray her world was spiraling into. The solid ground beneath her felt like shifting sand, and with every revelation, pieces of her identity began to fracture. "Emma, he loved you," her mother interjected, desperation coloring her tone. "Everything he did was to protect you from the consequences of his decisions. But love can blind us. I thought keeping you safe meant keeping the truth from you." "Keeping the truth only makes it worse," Emma shot back, bitterness threading through her words. "I need to know the extent of this chaos. If I'm inheriting his legacy, then shouldn't I own it fully, the good and the bad? I can't build my own life on a foundation of secrets." Linda flinched at her daughter's words, a clash of understanding and regret flaring in her eyes. Emma felt a pang of sadness bounce between them. "You're right," she conceded, her shoulders sagging. "I should have given you that choice from the beginning." Each heartbeat resonated with unspoken truths as thoughts collided in Emma's mind. Would confronting these past demons forge a stronger bond between them, or shatter what little unity they had left? "What do I need to prepare for?" Emma demanded, her tone resolute, despite the trembling vulnerability that lay beneath. "Your father's choices may come back to haunt you, Emma," Linda warned, the weight of her words impending. "There might be people who think they're owed something. There could be hostility, confrontation, or worse." The concept of being unmoored in this turbulent legacy ignited a fierce determination within Emma. "Then I'll prepare for that, too," she said, her voice firmer than she felt. "I can't hide or freeze in fear. I need to confront this. I need to equip myself with everything I can. This is mine now. It is part of who I am meant to be." A brief silence enveloped them, as if each willed the other to absorb the gravity of that commitment. Emma knew that equipping herself meant more than simple knowledge. It would involve emotional armor to face the people who may challenge not only her legacy, but also her self-worth and autonomy. Where do we even begin? Emma asked, feeling the intensity of her intentions multiply with every tick of time. I have some old records, notes, and maybe even contracts, Linda replied, the urgency in her voice building. They're in the attic. It's a lot to sift through, but it may help start this process. Then we start now, Emma spoke, as if she was signing a pact. She was determined to take ownership of her father's legacy, no longer letting the past dictate her identity, but instead allowing herself to confront and transform it. As they made their way toward the attic, Emma's heart raced with a volatile mixture of dread and hope. How would she react to what might await her? More important, could she emerge not just as her father's daughter, but as her own person in the process? Reaching into the depths of the unknown, Emma prepared herself for truths that could ripple through her past, present, and future. What hidden realities lay behind those attic doors? And would they finally hold the key to her evolution, or reshape her into something she wasn't prepared for? As Emma climbed the attic stairs, the air grew cooler and heavier with an almost palpable tension. The wooden steps creaked underfoot, echoing her uncertainty. Distant flickers of hope and dread collided within her, creating a storm of conflicting emotions. The attic door loomed like a gateway to the unknown, a boundary between the sheltered life she once knew and the tumult her father's secrets might unleash. Linda hesitated at the top of the stairs, her hands trembling. "Are you ready for this?" she asked, her voice a whisper, an invitation for apprehension to take hold. Emma nodded, determination sharpening her resolve. "I have to be." She reached for the doorknob, turning it slowly. The door creaked open, revealing a dimly lit space cluttered with boxes, ancient furniture, and forgotten memories. Dust motes danced in the thin beam of light filtering through a small window, resembling fragments of the past waiting to be unearthed. They stepped inside, and Emma's gaze quickly scanned the room, landing on an old trunk in the corner. It looked out of place among the otherwise nondescript piles of debris. Something told her it held significance. "What's in there?" she asked, a tingle of anticipation rising from her core. "That's your father's trunk. I never dared to go through it. I was afraid of what it might reveal," Linda said, her face a portrait of unease. For a moment, Emma felt her mother's hesitance wrap around her like a shroud, but that apprehension only fueled her resolve. This was her journey now, and she refused to let fear dictate her path. "We'll look together." As they pried open the trunk, dust cascaded like the weight of years gone by. Emma peered inside, and her heart raced. Piles of papers, photographs, and journals spilled out, each item a potential key to unlocking the mysteries her father left behind. She grabbed the first journal, its leather cover cracked and worn from time. Her fingers traced the edges, igniting a yearning for understanding that had been dormant for too long. "Let's start with this one," she said, flipping it open. The faded ink of her father's handwriting spilled across the pages, a mix of regret and hope swirling in his words. Sentences began to emerge from the fog of doubt that surrounded her identity. He spoke of the choices he made, the burdens he carried, and the promises he regretted. With each line she read, the weight of his struggles seeped into her bones. Emma grappled with her emotions, love, betrayal, fear, all entwined like the intricate scripts of his life. As she turned the pages, she uncovered fragments of unresolved affairs, desperate letters exchanged under the cloak of night, and agreements that could haunt her. "What is it?" Linda asked, her hand hesitating over a tattered photograph. "He wasn't just tangled in financial debts," Emma murmured, her voice thick with realization. "This goes deeper, Mom. He made promises that could put us at risk. These people, they weren't just faceless creditors. They were part of a life he tried to escape." Linda's face contorted with pain as she joined Emma, scanning the revelations unfolding before them. "I was so absorbed in protecting you from this that I didn't realize the true burden he left behind." The emotional weight sharpened Emma's focus. This was not merely about uncovering secrets, it was about reclaiming her identity and ownership over her destiny. The past wasn't just a collection of burdens, it could also be a blueprint for her future. She turned the pages more swiftly now, eager, hungry for knowledge, even as terror curled at the edges. "Can you see the path?" she asked, lifting her gaze from the journal, her heart racing in a dangerous dance. Despite everything he experienced, he fought for us. If he survived it all, so can I. Linda's expression softened, yet doubt lingered in her eyes. But at what cost? Emma took a deep breath, her voice steadying. "I can't run away from what he did. I need to confront it head on. I am not just his daughter. I am my own person. This is my chance to redefine our legacy." The moment stretched taut between them, a fragile bridge of understanding built through shared pain. They were bound by blood, but Emma was resolute that her journey would carve her own path. As she prepared to sift through the collected pieces of her father's life, Emma knew she was stepping beyond the shadows he cast. The unsettling feeling of being watched crept over her as a chill swept through the attic, implying that this revelation was just the beginning. What consequences would arise from confronting the specters of her father's past? And could Emma truly emerge whole amid this emotional upheaval? The attic, once a storage of secrets, had transformed into her battleground. Each revelation would demand sacrifice and courage, pushing her further on the road towards self-discovery. With a newfound clarity, Emma embarked on this journey, ready to challenge the ghosts that haunted her family's past. But deep within, she questioned whether she had the strength to face what lay ahead. As she flipped through another page, a name jumped out, a figure connected to her father's dealings, and the dread returned. The time had come to face the forces that might shape her future, threatening to dismantle everything she was about to build. Would she be able to confront them, or would she fall victim to the very legacy she sought to understand? As Emma scanned the names etched in her father's journal, one stood out: Victor Lane. The cursive letters flickered in her mind like a warning signal, igniting an unsettling curiosity deeper than any dark secret in the attic. Who was Victor, and why did her father's handwriting tremble with urgency whenever he mentioned him? "Mom, do you know this name?" Emma asked, her heart pounding in her chest. Linda's face paled, the color draining as memories flooded back. He was someone your father knew well, a partner in business, but also someone wrapped in controversy. I didn't want you to ever learn about him." Something in her mother's voice unsettled Emma. It was a cocktail of fear and shame. What did he do? "We had to distance ourselves from Victor. He made choices that risked everything we worked for. Your father thought he could control the situation, but—" Linda's voice faded, leaving space for Emma's imagination to fill. The air thickened between them, a precursor to the storm brewing within Emma. She felt a pulse of rebellion rise inside her, a burning desire to take control of the narrative instead of letting the ashes of her father's life dictate her own. "I need to find out who Victor is. This can't be just a terrifying ghost from the past." She felt the weight of her decision settle on her shoulders like a cloak of armor. "I'm not afraid." Linda's eyes glistened with the hint of unshed tears. "Emma, some truths are better left buried. We've survived this long without knowing the whole story." But Emma couldn't let go. This was no longer merely about her father's past. It was an unfolding quest for her identity. She realized the path she took would either empower or shatter her sense of self. "Let's just see if we can find Victor, Mom," Emma insisted, her voice steadier now. "I have to understand the choices my father made, what he fought against, and how they might still linger." Linda sighed, a deep resignation radiating from her. "If you insist on pursuing this, I can't stop you, but I encourage you to tread lightly. You might uncover more than you bargained for." With newfound clarity, Emma embarked on her pursuit. She delved deeper into the journal, navigating her father's life through a warren of names, decisions, and relationships that spun like a web threatening to ensnare her. There was mention of meetings at 2 a.m., coded messages, and urgent phone calls that pierced through normality like jagged edges. Each entry elicited different fragments of a man who aspired for better, yet simultaneously sunk into moral gray areas. She found hidden talents of her own as she pieced together a timeline, compiling a visual map that connected the echoes of her father's psyche with her present reality. Hours faded, and Emma finally discovered an address linked to Victor, hidden among the dense narratives, a remnant of her father's dealings, yet somehow illuminating. She stared at it, her heart racing with a mixture of anxiety and anticipation. This was her gateway to knowing the truth. "Emma," Linda interrupted, carefully stepping over the cluttered floor, "are you truly ready for what you might find?" "I am," Emma replied, energy sort of flickering through her. She had reached a consensus with herself. This was no longer just about her father, but also about reclaiming her autonomy. "I need to own this for myself." The determination crystallized in her mind, but doubts lingered like shadows waiting to pull her back into a past that threatened to overpower her future. Emma deliberated the weight of forging ahead versus dwelling in the safety of ignorance. As the night deepened, her resolve wrestled with the chilling possibility that confronting Victor could unravel the very bonds that held her family together. Would she emerge whole, or would shards of her father's past break her apart? Rattling the metallic door handle in her thoughts, Emma braced for what lay in the outside world. The steps she intended to take would demand unwavering courage and an acknowledgement that not all truths offered healing. The moment she pulled her phone from her pocket was like igniting the fuse. Decisions propelled her forward. She resolved to contact Victor, a name laced with both danger and the chance for enlightenment. But as her fingers hovered over the screen, a sudden power shift jolted her. Was she prepared for what awaited her on the other side? Only time would tell if she'd find the answers she sought, or risk an entanglement with the very ghosts she hoped to confront. As she made the call, the weight of uncharted territories pressed heavily against her chest. Her journey had just begun. The phone rang, an incisive sound that cut through the silence of Emma's room. Each tone reverberated in her chest, amplifying her mixed feelings of anticipation and dread. As the dial tone echoed, she allowed herself a moment to breathe and gather her thoughts. Who was Victor, really? When the call connected, Emma's voice faltered for only a heartbeat before she regained her composure. "Victor Lane? This is Emma, Greg's daughter." "Emma?" Victor's voice was gravelly and unfamiliar, but there was an edge of recognition that sent a jolt through her. "I haven't heard your name in years." She paused, the significance of his casual response washing over her. "I know this must be unexpected." "My father. I'm searching for answers." A brief silence enveloped the line before she heard him exhale. "Some answers are better left alone." The words crashed over her like a wave, and she bristled against the suggestion. "I need to understand. Why did he associate with you? What really happened?" Victor sighed heavily, the weight of the past punctuating the airwaves. "Your father wasn't the man you think he was, Emma. I'll tell you what I can, but you might not like what you hear." This was a pivotal moment for Emma. Her decision to engage with Victor transported her into a realm drenched in uncertainty, yet flickering with the light of discovery. Would this be a step toward personal growth, or an invitation into chaos? "Meeting in person would be best," Victor proposed, his tone hinting at a seriousness that stoked her already brewing anxiety. "We need to talk face to face." "Where?" she asked, her heart pounding, her instincts urging caution. "Tomorrow at 6, a diner off Maple Street," he replied. "Be careful." "Why do you care?" Anger drummed against her ribs. "You barely know me." "Because," he replied without missing a beat, "I knew your father too well." The call ended, leaving Emma immobilized, her mind racing to make sense of the whirlwind. She paced around her room, the gravity of the situation pressing in. This meeting could prove pivotal. It could unlock pieces of her identity that remained unexamined. Yet facing a man who held secrets about her father felt like teetering on the edge of a cliff. Reflecting on her last conversation with Linda, she sensed the mother's protective instincts clashing with her own burgeoning desire for truth. Linda always encouraged safety. This pursuit could fracture their fragile stability. Did she possess the strength to learn the truth, regardless of the consequences? As daylight crept into her space, shedding light on her chaotic thoughts, Emma recognized that courage meant pushing back against fear. She needed this. Longing for independence ignited a different kind of fire within her, a blazing assertion that she could shape her path. She spent the morning gathering information on Victor, researching everything from public records to social media accounts. This revealed layers she had not expected, hinting that Victor's life was wrapped in controversies that were both sordid and compelling. Every search broadened her perspective and honed her resolution. By the time she prepared for her meeting, her heart had morphed from a quivering mess to a determined drumbeat. She wanted not just answers, but to redefine the language of trust that seeped from her father's choices. Emma donned a powerful outfit, one that made her feel like an executor of her own fate, emanating confidence beneath the swirling haze of doubt. On her way to the diner, the streets blurred past her, the colors mingling with the thoughts racing through her mind. She steered her focus towards the impending confrontation. How would Victor's revelations alter her perception of her father? More importantly, how would their outcome reshape her? Reaching the diner, Emma steeled herself. Memories of familial love intermingled with newfound resentment. Drawing in a deep breath, she entered the establishment, her heart grazing a new threshold of intensity and expectation. Would she find closure, or would this encounter plunge her deeper into uncertainty? The moment aimed to align her past with her aspirations, but as with all journeys towards self-discovery, clarity often came at a price. The doors swung shut behind her, the bell ringing out a signal as she spotted Victor seated in the booth at the far corner. The time had come to face whatever truths awaited her. Would she emerge empowered, or would she find herself ensnared in her father's shadows? The tension settled heavily as she approached him, her journey reaching an inevitable climax. Emma paused at the edge of the booth, the moment stretching thin like taut wire. Victor's weathered face bore the imprints of a lifetime marked by choices and consequences, and she felt as if she were staring at the living embodiment of her father's hidden life. "Can I sit?" she managed to ask, her voice steadier than she felt. "Please," he replied, gesturing to the seat across from him. The casual invitation felt discordant with the weight of the conversation that loomed ahead. Sliding into the booth, she settled herself, allowing her eyes to sweep the diner's glare, searching for a distraction from the intensity of the impending conversation. She studied the fake wood paneling and the flickering fluorescent lights, feeling slightly detached from the world around her. A tight unease knotted in her stomach, a reminder that truths, once uncovered, could reshape everything she thought she knew. Victor's gaze returned to her, penetrating and observant. "Your father made a lot of mistakes," he began, his voice low and even. "I can tell you brutal truths, but they may well leave you with more questions than answers." "I'm ready," she asserted, even as uncertainty shivered through her. Was she? Did she truly want to dismantle the memories of a man she thought she understood? She questioned her own resolve, but clamped down on the doubt. This was for her, an opportunity she couldn't allow to slip away. He nodded, seemingly weighing his words. He got involved in things he couldn't control. It wasn't just business, Emma. He crossed lines that shouldn't be crossed. The initial chill of his statement ran through her, and she endeavored to maintain her composure. What were those things? Victor leaned back, the creak of the booth echoing the weight of the confessions that threatened to spill forth. Shadows shifted across his features, painting his expression in hues of regret and resignation. "People like me don't usually have clean hands. Your father, he gravitated toward danger, friends who were more like enemies. And you were one of those friends." The accusation hung heavily in the air, filled with anger and accusation she barely recognized in herself. He chuckled softly, but it lacked humor, more a grim acknowledgement of shared pasts. In more ways than you can imagine, we both wanted something we could never have, and we paid for it, he replied, his voice softening slightly. I might have been a misguided guide. Emma felt a knot in her throat, tempted to push him deeper with questions, but aware that each inquiry could ensnare her further into a reality she was unprepared to confront. What about my mother? The question tumbled out before she could stop it, her voice tinged with both vulnerability and determination. What did she know? Victor stiffened slightly, and the shift told her there was a story deep within that surface. The guardedness that cloaked him piqued her curiosity and fear simultaneously. That's a complicated tale, a web of lies, half-truths, and protective instincts. Tell me, she pressed, emboldened by a sudden surge of defiance. Each word seemed to fuel her determination. She wanted clarity, not just crumbs of truth. Your father, he pressed. He tried to shield her. From the criminal entanglements, from the fallout. But in truth, Emma, the damage was done long before he could put on the mask of a good husband and father. Each revelation pounded through her, shaping her perception and forcing her to confront the shadows in her family's history. She wanted to scream in response, demand answers to the questions that rippled just beneath the surface. Part of her longed to retreat, to flee from this man unearthing painful layers of a beloved figure, while another part craved the truth even more fiercely. You see, you don't just get to walk away from this kind of betrayal, he continued, his admission laced with a twinge of sorrow that softened his demeanor. It speaks to who you are. You may think you're ready for what you uncover, but nothing can prepare you for the decisions you'll have to make after. Emma clenched her fists, feeling the electric pulse of determination against her palms. No more secrets, she declared, feeling renewed power swell within her. I want to know everything. Victor's gaze deepened, an acknowledgement that mirrored her steely conviction. This could be the turning point, not just a confrontation with her father's past, but a decisive confrontation with her own. What awaited her was more than just the fallout of her family's hidden truths. It was the revelation of her ongoing strength as she navigated this treacherous path. But even in this moment of clarity, a chilling question shrouded her determination. Were the truths she sought worth the potential friction with her mother? And how would this information alter her trajectory? As she braced for the storm of revelations to come, deeper shadows began to loom in her mind. Would her pursuit of truth unearth the hidden strength within, one that could reshape her identity forever? Emma's heart raced, a war waged between the comforting allure of ignorance and the raw edge of truth coaxing her forward. She grappled with the weight of Victor's confession, the reality of her father painted in shades she'd never considered before. Could one man, or woman, become so mired in denial that their entire life was a facade? It stirred something dormant inside her, a bristling need to elevate herself beyond the shadows that had haunted her life for too long. Tell me about the friends, she pressed, her voice firmer now, anchored by a tumult of emotions she had yet to fully understand. Victor's gaze faltered momentarily, obfuscating layers of complexity that pulsed just beneath his surface. It's not so simple. When your father crossed paths with them, it was a collision of aspirations and dangers. Not everyone wants to be saved. Did you try to save him? Her voice leaked suspicion, yet her gut twisted with a sudden compassion for a man she barely knew. Victor leaned closer, the energy between them spiking. He was never looking for saving. He wanted a thrill, an escape. I let him indulge in it, thinking I was helping. It's all intertwined. His choices tangled with mine. Emma's mind whirled, pushed back against the gravity of the implications. Confronting the skeletons in her father's closet felt daunting, not simply because of what they might reveal about him, but because of what it could mean for herself. I need to know how deep this goes. The words slipped out, colored with an urgency she hadn't anticipated. Each syllable dripped determination, fueled by the realization that knowledge could be a weapon and a shield. Victor nodded gravely, sensing her resolve. The deeper you go, the darker it gets. Your mother was a beacon, though. Whatever the darkness of your father's past, she was the light that tried to navigate the path. How can she be both? Emma's voice tapered off, flooded with doubt. If her mother was this beacon, how could she have allowed secrets to fester in the dark? How do I reconcile that? Victor studied her, searching for the right words. Instead, he leaned back, hatching a plan of his own. This isn't just a story about your father. It's also about you grappling with familial loyalty and personal truths. Family legislation doesn't come without its conflicts. Before she could protest or plead for more clarity, he added, "You need to confront your mother. Your relationship with her hinges on what you choose to believe or understand about your father's past. Those truths may be harsh. They may even shatter the image she has painted for you. But the question remains, can you accept it?" Emma's fingers drummed rhythmically against the faux wood table, each tap mirroring her racing heartbeat. She was building a bridge between her past and future, but would it collapse under the weight of what lay ahead? How would she confront her mother, the one figure in her life she'd considered her anchor? "I can do it," she murmured, more to herself than to Victor. "But I need time to prepare. There are too many emotions tangled in this mess." Take all the time you need, but don't let fear paralyze you. The stronger the truth, the harder it is to confront, he cautioned, leaning back against the booth's worn vinyl. The moment you let it simmer without exploration, it becomes a poison in your veins. Emma straightened, the flickers of fluorescent light above casting her in a surreal glow. She felt alive, on the precipice of something she couldn't name yet. Churning creativity mixing with trepidation filled her thoughts with a kaleidoscope of choice. "I'll face her," she vowed, a tone of finality woven into her voice. "But when I do, I won't run away from what I discover. I want to reshape everything that's been hidden under layers of silence." Victor smiled, a flicker of pride lighting up his weathered features. In that moment, her resolve cemented, and she felt her purpose crystallize more clearly than ever before. But just as a plan began to solidify within the labyrinth of her thoughts, an unsettling notion danced on the edge of her consciousness. What if confronting her mother could open doors she had no intention of walking through? What truths might lie beyond, even darker than her father's legacy? Determined to embrace whatever lay ahead, Emma gathered her thoughts. It was time to reclaim her narrative, to script her destiny from the ashes of the past. All she had to do was summon the will to uncover the last remnants of her family's buried secrets. The phone buzzed in her pocket, pulling her momentarily from the maelstrom of her thoughts. It was her mother calling, an invitation to dinner, a routine she had cherished but now suddenly felt ominous. As she stared down at the glowing screen, one heart-pounding thought emerged. The time to face the truth was drawing near, and there would be no turning back now. Emma emerged from the shadows of the past, steadied by the revelations that had cascaded through her recent days. The confrontation with Victor had stirred within her a fierce resolve to reshape her narrative. She now stood tall, ready to confront not just her father's legacy, but the complexities of her relationship with her mother, Linda. Within the familiar kitchen, the aroma of simmering herbs and spices wafted through the air, a contrast to the tension that crackled between them. Emma could see her mother bustling about, lost in a rhythm that once brought her comfort. But now, the surface of their world felt fragile, and the upcoming conversation felt heavier than ever. "Mom, can we talk?" Emma's voice was steady, the air shimmering with unspoken truths that hung heavily above them. "Of course, sweetie," Linda replied, glancing up briefly, but the weariness in her eyes revealed the weight of their earlier discussion still loomed. Taking a deep breath, Emma sat down at the kitchen table, her heart pounding in anticipation of the revelations to come. Each sound, dishes clattering, water boiling, the hum of the refrigerator, blurred into a cacophony that echoed the turmoil in her mind. About Dad, she began, the weight of those two words carrying more significance than she had anticipated. Linda froze for a moment, and Emma caught the flicker of vulnerability crossing her mother's expression. The moment of silence stretched, heavy with the gravity of what needed to be addressed. "What did you find out?" Linda finally asked, her posture stiffening with a mix of concern and trepidation. Emma felt the fire of determination spark within her, igniting clarity. "Victor, he told me that Dad was involved in things that went beyond business. He had dangerous associations, but he also had reasons for his choices." Tension crackled in the air as Linda stiffened, memories resurfacing like errant waves crashing against the shore. "He was trying to protect you," she said quietly, her gaze dropping to her hands as if seeking refuge from what once had been. "Protect me from what, Mom?" Emma's voice sharpened with frustration, flooding with the urgency of her quest for truth. "I need to understand why you thought keeping secrets would help me. Keeping me in the dark doesn't feel like protection. It feels like imprisonment." Linda's eyes glistened, but they remained resolute as she sat across from her daughter. "I didn't want you to suffer because of his mistakes. He was caught in a cycle of his own making, and I believed shielding you from that would allow you to build your life without that burden." "Mom," Emma sighed deeply, trying to suppress the conflicting waves of anger and empathy swarming within her. "I need to create my own path. Understanding his choices doesn't define me. It helps me. Discovering the truth is how I reclaim my identity." Linda, for the first time, let the walls around her begin to lower. Silence blanketed the kitchen space again, but it felt different now, brittle yet benevolent. "I should have trusted you enough to know you could confront this. I thought I was helping you escape, but it seems I was wrong." A flicker of understanding sparkled between them. This wasn't merely a confrontation, it was an opportunity for growth and connection. "Together," Emma proposed earnestly, "we can navigate this messy history. My journey to face what Dad left behind is not something I should do alone. If we delve into this, his debts, his choices, we can explore our own truths too." Linda regarded her daughter, a mixture of fear and respect reflected in her gaze. "Are you ready for what lies ahead?" she asked, her voice soft yet steady. "I am," Emma replied decisively, confidence radiating from her. "I've come to realize that facing our shadows doesn't have to tear us apart. It can also forge something stronger. Understanding is the foundation." The room buzzed with energy as they began to fill in the voids of silence with intention. They spent the evening wading through the complexities of existence, unraveling the strands of her father's decisions while sifting through unresolved emotions that had long been buried beneath piles of unspoken pain. With each revelation reflected in Linda's cautious expressions, Emma felt herself growing, emerging as someone capable of operating in this newfound awareness. The weight of secrets unshackled her spirit as they leaned into the truths together, not hesitantly, but with arms wide open. By the time the moon rose high in the night sky, illuminating the kitchen with a gentle glow, Emma and her mother sat in the echoes of laughter and shared tears. They were no longer just two individuals linked by blood, but partners on a journey into the light of understanding. "I can do this," Emma affirmed, feeling her voice resilient against the walls of uncertainty. With a firm conviction in her heart, she realized that embracing the past freed her, transforming it from a chain binding her to a crucible for growth. As the quiet settled around them, Emma sat still, exhilarated by the flame of independence that burned steadily within her. The path ahead was unknown, filled with revelations sure to test the foundations of their bond, but she felt equipped to meet it head-on. She knew that only by diving into the depths of her inheritance would she uncover the pieces that would shape her future, and it was in this pursuit of truth that her fulfillment awaited. And with that clarity ignited within her, Emma made a silent vow. This was her legacy, and she would wield it as a tool for empowerment, not enslavement. Now was her time. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that unveil the strength of individual journeys. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and spread the inspiration that allows growth and transformation to flourish. Comment below with your reactions and theories about what Emma's journey might inspire in your own lives. We want to hear from you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this powerful conclusion, because stories like Emma's are meant to connect and heal us all. Don't wait even one more second to share.